people under 55, for example, tend to immediately just get the value proposition, get the benefits of it, and are a lot more willing to get started with it.
Hey everyone, Darren here. Today we've invited Fish, a good friend of mine, to talk about what a property manager does and how technology can help landlords and property managers. Fish is the CEO and founder of MyPropty, which enables landlords and property managers to save time and reduce operation costs by digitizing and streamlining their own process. With data and technology, landlords can make smarter decisions and act faster when it comes to managing their own property portfolio. Both of us, along with a group of real estate and PropTech professionals, have formed the PropTech Institute, a non-profit association representing Asia's PropTech community. We have a future episode to tell you more about that. Without further ado, please meet Fish and hope you like the show. Cheers. Hey Fish, hey, how's it going, man?
Hey, how are you?
Very good, very good. Just like between interviews and then first of all, thanks for coming in. And then we're longtime friends, and then we never had the setting to interview you like this, so it's kind of interesting in my perspective. First of all, would you mind to tell the audience what you do and then what your company does?
Sure. So I'm Vishalsai, founder of MyPropty. We help landlords reduce their operating costs and basically improve their portfolio returns here in Hong Kong. What we're trying to do is basically develop technology to help them streamline their operations, automate a lot of the work that they do, and be able to make decisions when it comes to managing their property portfolios a lot faster and more reliably.
So for people that doesn't understand what property management does, would you mind telling the audience a bit more about what property management do for the estate owners? Like it can be from basic, scope, and it can be for different asset classes, stuff like that.
Okay, so when it comes to property management, it can actually be divided into two main segments. So there is asset management, which covers common areas within buildings, and is usually applicable to people that own large estates. In the context of asset management, you tend to get involved in tasks such as repairing elevators, hiring security guards, fixing common areas, building infrastructure, and all of that. The other aspect of property management is more on the tenant management side of things. So this involves more private areas within buildings. Tenant management companies are more involved on collecting rent from tenants, finding new tenants, handling repairs or appliance repairs within an apartment, and more that sort of thing. So like going back to it, under property management, there's asset management and tenant management. Our business is actually more focused on the tenant management side of things. So we are targeting large landlords in Hong Kong that have several different units. They can be in the same building, or they can be in different buildings scattered across Hong Kong. But what we do is we help them streamline their management with the tenants that they have in their various units.
I see. But it sounds like these are things that landlords could do themselves. They could hire a team, they could do everything in-house. So why would a landlord or estate owner would, hire you or other companies? And then what's the pros and cons behind that?
So in terms of hiring property management companies, there are several companies that provide these tenant management services. And in terms of the pros, it's quite obvious why you would hire a company like that. It's because they're professional. They provide a complete hassle-free experience, so they will handle everything. You won't even have to deal with anything. You just get reports, say, every month. And the fact that they are experienced and professional means that everything will be handled in, I guess, a more formalized or correct manner, so to speak. However, there are several cons with going with an outsourced company as well. They tend to be fairly expensive from our experience. So property management companies, tenant management companies in Hong Kong, they tend to charge between 3 to 7% of the monthly rental, which is quite significant, especially if you own a sizable portfolio. These companies also provide a delayed cash flow. So if you're managing a large portfolio, the cash flow is very important. And what they do is when they collect rent for a specific month, they typically only deposit those returns 1 month later, after they've paid any management fees, government rent, and so on and so forth. So if you become a large portfolio holder or medium-sized portfolio holder, this could have significant effects on your cash flow. I think the last thing that I guess we have seen is that whenever you outsource your work to a different company, there may arise a conflict of interest. So if you use an external company, they will in turn use their own in-house staff for handling repairs, or they'll use their own internal property agents for renting out your properties. But this does not necessarily mean that you will get the best price for your repairs, or it doesn't necessarily mean that you will transact your property the fastest. Actually, many medium-sized landlords end up hiring their own staff to use to kind of manage their own personal portfolio. So imagine you're a landlord that owns around 20 units, let's say, for example. You'll just hire one person full-time, maybe a couple people part-time, whatever it is, to keep track of things via Excel, via Word document, manage your own files, but handle all of these things for you. So that is a very common structure that a lot of medium-sized landlords follow. However, the people that they hire don't necessarily operate very efficiently. They don't have necessarily industry experience. They don't have economies of scale that you get managing a large portfolio, and that's where we kind of come in, where we help people in-house that are already managing property portfolios digitize and automate a lot of the work that they have to do, which in turn can help landlords downsize their team, reduce errors that happen, rent out properties faster, and so on.
So if a landlord chooses to be self-managing by themselves, what kind of tips, as a property management professional like yourself, what kind of mistakes that landlords might make, and what kind of tips would you have to help them, how to make it better?
So in terms of, you mean if they're managing it themselves, right? So I think a lot of people that tend to manage their portfolios themselves tend to follow a very reactive process. So what they'll do is, if a tenant notifies them that they'll be moving out, only after the process will they go about finding which property agents that they should reach out to, what is the square footage of their apartment, what is the market price for similar units, even in terms of repairs. So whenever a repair request comes in, they will react and try to find out what is the necessary things that need to be done. One of the things that we feel that landlords should in fact do is take a more proactive approach, which is being more regularly well-read about the status of their portfolio. Because a lot of the times you can actually tell when a tenant is going to move out based off their payment schedules in the months prior, or based off how many months outstanding payments there are. You can actually immediately get a sense of how you should be handling that tenant. Another thing that I think in Hong Kong is not very common is that they underestimate the cost of churning your tenants. Every time you find a new tenant, you may deal with various vacant periods. You have to pay agent commissions. The need to repair certain things increases. So there's a significant cost every time you have to find a new tenant. And a lot of the times landlords don't necessarily factor that in. And so they might be providing a very negative experience for their tenants throughout by not responding to their repair requests quickly, by not being responsive, by not openly communicating with their tenants on a regular basis, which means that the churn that happens within their portfolio is higher. And these are all subtle costs, but can have a huge impact on the portfolio that landlords have overall.
I think from the way you talk about it, I think that's why people have to hire an outside property management firm, is because there's so much these things that is so particular, detail oriented, and you have to always be in touch with the market to know what's going on. And landlord might not have the time to do everything.
Exactly. So that's why people use property management companies. But like I mentioned earlier, is that when you go to external parties, there tends to be a slight conflict of interest on certain things. And also they tend to be pretty expensive in Hong Kong. Which is why, because you have a sizable enough portfolio, say 10, 15 or up, you would likely hire your own team to do that for you.
I see. So obviously, like, we both know each other long enough, as I said before, that I know that you focus more on the property management platform over the service. What type of clients do you have when it comes to the platform, and why would they need your platform? Like, what would they get from it?
So the kind of clients that we're targeting are high net worth individuals, families, family offices, even small real estate funds in Hong Kong. So we are targeting people that have between usually upwards of 10, maybe 15 to about 100 properties under management in Hong Kong. A lot of these people tend to have their own staff, as I said, managing their own portfolio. And where we come in is that by helping them streamline a lot of the work that needs to be done and automating various things, they can potentially reduce their operating costs by downsizing the team, reducing the number of errors that happen, promoting transparency within the organization so that if any issues happen, multiple people can address those issues very quickly. Being able to act on their property portfolios. So we're basically trying to help these teams operate at a level even greater than property management companies by helping them automate and basically digitize a lot of the work that needs to be done.
I see. So just wondering, what kind of features or things that your platform has? And then on top of that, what kind of property management service that you think it can be automated? Because like, you know, I used to work at a real estate fund, and then sometimes when I engage with property management, in my head it was like, I shouldn't pay them that much because I can automate it with, you know, if there's some tools out there. I just want to know like your point of view on that.
So I guess I'll start off with some of the features that we've implemented and certain other things that we feel can be automated. So starting with something simple, we help them with generating their invoices, their receipts, any payment reminders to their tenants, keeping track of any repair tasks that need to be done, such as, say you have an issue with your washing machine, you want to keep photos of before and after a state, log any phone numbers of people that you're calling. So a place to log all of this kind of information. Another thing that people need is just being able to access their documents electronically. So for quick retrieval of data, we help them with that, because a lot of the times landlords don't necessarily have, say, a history of your tenancies, or they don't have the floor plan when they need it, or appliance warranties. So what we do is we help them digitize all of this information so that they can access it very quickly. Some other features that we have is actually like helping them contact property agents. So again, going back to the workflow that landlords have, what they would do is when they have a property that's vacant, they'll walk down to the nearest Central Line or Midland, talk to a couple of those agents, maybe reach out to some agents that they've worked with before. But what we do is immediately through the platform, you can press one button and send it out to all these agents, which we have helped filter and get this information out to them.
I see. So yeah. So keep going. Sorry.
Yeah. So those are a couple of the features that the platform has. And also in terms of reporting, a lot of the times at the end of every month, you want a report on how your portfolio is doing, what the occupancy rates are like, what is your net spend or like net cash flow position for every property portfolio, and be able to assess that. So even in terms of generating these reports for your entire portfolio, a lot of this work can also be automated, because all you have to do is now input the data and you let the system generate those reports for you.
I see. So like, you know, we're in 2020 now. I just don't get it. Like, why is property management portal is a new thing, because I thought these are things that be around since years ago, right? I mean, you can buy cars now online. Like, property management sounds like it should be a thing that it should be around for 10 years already. So I just want to know, like, what's the reason behind it? Why is this thing is a new thing for 2020?
So to be honest, property management platforms is not a new thing.
Okay.
It has been around. Like, there are various tools for very, very large corporations, meaning people that manage several buildings in Hong Kong. So there are several tools for people in that market segment already. There's just not many tools for people in the middle, just mass market segments. That's the
I see.
The second thing is that there are property management platforms in the US, in the UK, in Australia, and so on. But Hong Kong as a city is just very far behind technologically. So a lot of things that are new in Hong Kong have perhaps been around for a while in other places as well. So what I would say is this might be a new platform in Hong Kong, but there are other property management companies existing in other countries. The last thing is that I think for this particular space, Hong Kong is a very unique market. Because there are buildings, there is relatively transparent data. There are a lot of landlords that own quite a lot of different units in Hong Kong, and there's a lot of wealth stored here in real estate. In countries like the UK or the US, the number of landlords that own large portfolios as a percentage is a lot less of the population than it is here.
True, I get it. Yeah.
Which makes it a very prime product for the Hong Kong market.
I see. So like because like I know your tech background, and then so when you create the products, right? Is there something that you create that is different because the audience here is different? Like, I'm sure Americans have a different way of the UI and stuff like that. For your point of view, right? Do you design differently, or is it just only because the target market is different?
So the product is different because of the different market. So like I said, in Hong Kong, because one of the big differences is that there's a concept of dual agency. So sometimes an agent might be working for the landlord, another agent might be working for the tenant when leasing a property, or an agent can actually work for both the landlord and tenant. So there's a concept of that which is different in Hong Kong compared to a lot of other countries in the world. Also, the sheer volume of data, homogeneous data, is present in Hong Kong because everything is high rises. It becomes a lot easier to create an equivalency between different units in the same building, and there's a lot of volume of transactions. However, in the US or the UK, a lot of the homes are very heterogeneous, which makes it very difficult to actually compare like for like.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's another factor where in Hong Kong, when you're reading comparables, being able to aggregate all these external data points and display it is a lot more useful here than it is in other countries.
I see. That's a pretty good point, because like I never thought it that way. It's just like something that like you never think about like, hey, if real estate can be very similar to all people, but it's down to is like people, even different landlord, different location have different behavior. So one last thing about, just want to know more, right? Because it seems like US and European tend to be more open-minded with tech. And I'm sure a lot of landlords, we both talked about this before a couple of times, is that people are just starting to get used to tech and start understanding tech. So what kind of challenge when you're pitching to homeowner and landlords about your portal?
Well, one of the big challenges is that when landlords, usually the larger landlords tend to be relatively older, because they've, I guess, established their portfolio over several decades. And usually the older people are, the less likely they are willing to adopt new technologies. So this is very clear because when we see sometimes the landlord, or say in the case of families, the top generation having to make a decision about technology, they tend to be relatively averse to change. Whereas people under 55, for example, tend to immediately just get the value proposition, get the benefits of it, and are a lot more willing to get started with it. So I think that's one big factor. Another thing is that it's also a cultural aspect. So many landlords in Hong Kong have been able to make money because the Hong Kong market has just appreciated significantly over the last couple of decades. It's not necessarily due to over-optimization of how they manage their property portfolio. It's kind of, Hong Kong has been a growing market, and that has been able to facilitate their growth in their portfolio. So I think that's another challenge to get across to landlords, is that just because they've been doing it for 20 to 30 years doesn't mean that they're doing it in a very efficient manner or an optimal manner.
I see.
So I would say those are the couple things that are challenges when speaking to potential landlords.
Yeah, I'm sure it must be, right? So like, what kind of takeaway would the audience, like you want the audience to have? And maybe is any last word you have for the Hong Kong landlords?
So I guess the biggest takeaways is that there is significant disruption in the space. And usually when you look at it from an outside perspective, there are a lot of ways to streamline or digitize a lot of the work that is being done. And if you can actually downsize your staff and reduce the number of errors that you're having, it can go a long way in terms of boosting your portfolio value. And yeah, it's something that should be looked at. So
if you want to put a number, right, like kind of like an idea to people, right? How much time and effort do you think, or even how much less labor they would need for a landlord if they have your product, for example?
So from the clients that we work with, we've been able to improve the time spent on various tasks by between 50 to 60%.
That's a lot, Jesus. Okay.
Which means that there's a good chance you can reduce your staff by 50% or even more.
Wow.
And then some landlords, in the case of some landlords, they not necessarily want to reduce their staff count, but you can basically reallocate the staff for various other work that needs to be completed within your organization as well.
I see.
So we've seen quite a significant amount of time saving just by streamlining a lot of the work. And there's a variety of ways to actually get this efficiency boost.
That's great. Like I think that's something that is a very powerful message to people, to like, Hong Kong, to understand more about like, what's out there. Not even Hong Kong, anywhere around the world. And is your product only available in Hong Kong, or you planning to go worldwide?
So at the moment, it's only available in Hong Kong. We think maybe in about a year or so, we would look at some overseas markets as well. But at the moment, we're focused on the Hong Kong space.
I see. So if the audience want to find you and talk to you more, what are the ways that people can know more about your service and product?
They can just email hello@mypropty.com. They can also WhatsApp me. You can add my WhatsApp into the description of the video.
Are you sure you want to put the WhatsApp out there? Are you sure you want to put that WhatsApp out there? That everyone's gonna spam you, man.
We have a company WhatsApp, so I
okay.
The company WhatsApp number. So either by WhatsApp or email address, you can just reach out. You can also message on social media, but I would say email or WhatsApp is probably the best bet.
Yeah, I'll put everything in the show notes, and then I think this is pretty good because like for not only for people that is learning about property management, it's for people that want to understand that what is a property management tool is. Because like sometimes I told people about your product, people will be like, what does that even mean? Like what is there? So thanks for your time, because I actually kind of want to do this whole another episode with more about property management. So I hope that you can join us next time.
Okay, sure.
All right. Okay, I have to go, and then thanks for coming in, and then I'll talk to you next time then.
All right. Awesome.
Talk to you later, man. Thanks. Okay, bye. Thanks for watching. What do you think of this episode? Please let us know in the comment below, and be sure to hit the subscribe button to keep in touch with us for upcoming videos. But before we go, I want to give a big shout out to Patina Design Lab. They're the one who help us in making our brand, our direction, as well as these videos. They are a strategic design consultancy firm to help businesses with a wide range of design services, from industrial design, branding, graphic design, art direction, content creation, and many more. They are a very talented bunch, and I urge you to check out their website for their work. That's all for today, and see you next time. Cheers.